was a perfect time. John, as always, you just ruined the fun. There was a time where Rob didn't have his hood on, and we were ready to go, and John was like, I should record this, and
I was doing it up for some humor and
nothing.
All right, start again. Take it from the top.
It's gone. It's gone, John.
Fine.
It's gone.
Fine.
It's gone. What isn't gone is the note that appeared on my front door from Vanis. If something happened, and again, always confused on what's going on. I think it happened today where Rob knows what's going on. Rob knows what's this all about. But essentially, the quotation this time around was, "Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide. Gonna find you and take it slowly. Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide. Gonna find you and make you want me. Yo." So that is the note from the artist formerly known as Vanis. So if you're wondering, there we go.
It's weird because it's threatening and yet erotic at the exact same time.
It's honestly, I think he watched
anything.
To be fair, I think he watched Deep Water with Ben Affleck, and then it was like, it was a weird thing that happened. I'm just trying to put my finger to the pulse.
He watched Deep Water and The Accountant, and he's just not sure which way to go with his Ben Affleck.
Well, it's better than watching Gigli, so this is what it is. So thank you everyone for joining us today on the Heroes World Quarantine podcast. Host Stupe here. With me today is one of the owners and proprietors of Heroes World, Mr. John Hill. Please say hello.
What's up, Doc?
Oh, very festive. And our resident Mr. Mischief himself, Mr. Rob Cadet. Say hello.
Hello, everybody.
We are here to talk about episode 2 of Moon Knight.
Yeah. Here we go. John, without spoiling it, tell us what happened.
I don't know what happened in this episode. This episode's all over the goddamn place. I was just telling Rob that there was a point in this episode where I just kept checking out, and I had to keep hitting the reset button and go. I just kept missing this part, but I guess we finally get to see what's going on. We get to see a little bit more behind the curtain. We finally get to see what's going on with what's.
This is not doing anything I've asked you to do, John. By the way, you totally missed the mark on the whole entire thing. Rob, can you tell us what happened, but not spoil it?
So this episode somewhat picks up after the events of last week's premiere episode, where Stephen Grant is trying to piece together who exactly he is. What are these voices that are happening? And while trying to figure out the puzzle that is his fractured life, we get a bit more of a peek behind the scenes of Ethan Hawke's nefarious villain and his machinations and understandings of Egyptian gods. And throughout the course of that, we finally get a proper look at the titular hero, Moonlight. But before that, we get that Moon Knight. We get this guy down over that way, whatever, below John, Mr. Knight. So it's an interesting episode. There's lots to unpack, and it's time for some high tea.
All right, John. Thank you, Rob. That's how you do things. As we go forward,
John. Wait, did you color your hair, John? Or is it just the light behind you?
It's probably just light. I should
okay. Because I was like, did you put red Jello in your hair? It's really distracting.
No, that's that. It's only Thursday, Rob. You do that on Friday.
Oh, okay.
So you can use it through the weekend.
Okay. So John, give me a score out of 10 on this bad boy.
This particular episode.
As a reminder for the people back home who are listening, the audience members, scores don't mean anything. I'm expecting John to say after episode 6, best show ever.
The
and then I'm like, the counting. I'm like, well, how does this work? The counted. You gave this episode 2 a 2, John. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
This episode gets 5 vertical spins on a Rubik's Cube, and that's it. No, I give it a 7 out of 10, probably.
Wow. Rob?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Last week I think I had as an 8.5. And I'm going to probably I'm gonna go with an 8 this week.
7.5. Boom. There we go.
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle. Right,
like the
right
stuffing of an Oreo.
I'm the lowest.
Yes, you are the lowest. Yep. All right, we're gonna go on
More ways
spoilers
than one.
because we're gonna go. Yeah, true say. We're gonna go spoilers because for people who haven't watched the episode, really, this episode as you've seen in our exercises, it's really hard to talk about anything in this episode. We're ruining the whole damn thing. So we're just gonna jump to spoilers. If you haven't watched the show, feel free to log off. If you just want to know what happens, join us on a ride of adventure. So here we go. Spoilers are happening now. John, you're a guy that likes the list of things. Tell us your list.
I didn't even bother making lists because, like I said, I'm these episodes are like all over the place.
You have one gimmick, and you didn't even do it.
Yeah, no, I don't got
That's like The Rock coming out and not doing the people's like elbow and not doing the eyebrow
or
and not
smelling what's cooking.
Yeah, or like finally,
did he always do the people's elbow when he?
Yeah, finally, The Rock has come back to name insert city here. Like these are your greatest hits, John. How do you not do this?
Yeah, so
it's like you saying, "I got nothing." Like I don't understand. This is your gift. This is your bid.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So the three things that are keeping me on for this show, in a particular order. So the number one thing that's keeping me on for this show is Oscar Isaac's charm. I know a lot of people are criticizing the accent he has. I don't know. I find him very funny and charming. So I'm definitely watching for him. And if it was up to him versus the Loki, who's like the most charming, I don't know. I feel like that'd be a tough call. Number two is I want to see what's going to go on with this Mr. Knight costume. I did like seeing it on the screen. I'm not quite sure if I'm sold on how it was portrayed, but I think it potentially can turn into what some of us comic readers are used to. And then number three, I really want to know the fate of Donna. I want to know what's going on. He does a quick mention of, I kind of want to kill my boss, but I would never do that. So I'm wondering if she's going to come back and turn out to be behind the whole scheme all along, because it feels like Marvel sometimes does that. But I do have.
Is this your trap card, a la Yu-Gi-Oh? Like you're trying to get us to talk about, Kyra? No, I feel she was just for that one episode, and we're gonna carry on.
You think she's gone forever?
Yeah. Hey, John, I'm not sure if you noticed, he got fired from the gift shop.
So he got sacked.
Interaction.
I don't know if that means the same thing as fired, does it?
Yes, it does, John.
Yes, it does.
It
does, John.
I don't know. The place is already under question. Did you see how many security monitors that security guard had? And they don't go to check the tape until he comes in and goes, "Hey, can I see the tape?" And you're like, "What the hell's going on in this place?" But yeah,
John, she has a better chance of ending on the TARDIS than she does coming back on the show.
Okay.
My question is, when did they get permission to film that security footage scene in Stu's basement? Because that's the only way Stu's able to watch all the TV shows and movies that he does, is a massive bank.
It was the biggest wall of screens I think I've ever seen. I think it beat. I think Batman Dark Knight had a huge screen of.
No, the Dark Knight one. No, the Dark Knight one was 3 panels vertically. I think it probably was more Dark Knight if you did by count.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was a ridiculous.
Have you never been to a Leon's?
Rob, who goes to retail anymore? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
When was the last time you went to a Leon's?
I went to the Brick about 2 weeks ago.
It's not the bad boy.
Not the same.
No, not the same.
No. These are two. Again, only weird Canadians will know this. They don't exist outside of Canada. So there you go.
That's true.
All right, John. Rob, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, last week I said that I had watched the first episode 3 times because I really enjoyed it. This one I only watched once, and that's not to say that it was a bad episode. It just felt like there was a lot in this episode. I don't know. I felt like in retrospect, like episode 1 gave you like little nuggets and like kept pulling us. Like the donkey with the string, and the carrot. Like I was like, oh. And this one, we got some stuff, but not enough. But it was a long episode. Like it's just shy of an hour. So we do have a bit more information on Ethan Hawke's on what his character is. Like, is it Fowler or
Arthur
Harrow?
Yes.
Harrow. Yeah. Sorry. So you get a little bit more understanding of him. But like, in the last episode, they set up that there was a lot of these individuals, and then you had like the cops that kind of came in and arrested Steven and took him, and then you realize that obviously they're working for Harrow. So I know that I'm jumping around a lot, but like I like the finality, or at least the conclusion of last week's, in so much as that he did get fired or sacked. Because oftentimes, I know it sounds stupid, but those little things, they never really get addressed, right? Like the person just takes off and nothing ever happens. Like, hey, what happened in the bathroom? I was like, I don't know. It must have been a weird plumbing issue. And then that's it. And like, da-da-da, and they're still working. And this one, they're like, you need help. Like, there's something wrong with you. We're here to help you. We're the HR thing. It's okay to have mental health issues. Like that was like, I'm paraphrasing that line, but that's what they were saying. The introduction of Mark Spector's wife was interesting. I almost kind of felt like it was a little bit force-fed, even a bit too early. Like I feel like I want to know more about what's going on, how these two personalities have come together. I know we're going to get it, but I felt like we're in the eyes of Steven, or and it's very chaotic and all over the place. And I kind of felt like the pacing of this specific episode was kind of chaotic and all over the place with a lot going on. And I kind of felt very jumbled. And I don't know if that's purposeful for us to kind of be like, okay, well, we're on the same page as what Steven's kind of going through, because he's fighting to not lose control of his body or himself to give in to Mark Spector. I will say probably my favorite part though of the episode would have been when he found the unit, the storage unit. Like that, like I wanted more about that information. Like there's a really cool spy thing going on that I just wish we had a bit more of, but I'm in. Like I'm a mark for this stuff. It's still a lot of fun. Like I'm really enjoying it. But I feel like I have to be a little bit critical of it, because otherwise I'm just going to fawn all over it. So
the unit was crazy because it was like all stripped down, clean. It just had a cot. Everything was neatly piled.
Yeah,
in contrast
like
to
Bourne Identity.
In contrast to his apartment, which like they panned around a lot in this episode. There's like a million books in there, and there's just shit like everywhere in that apartment. Right? They're like, "What's this?" He's like, "A pyramid." He's like from the
paperweight
souvenir store.
I think Rob, you're kind of hitting the nail on the head. It's very Bourne Identity. It's like when he opens up when we saw the bag, I'm like, oh, he's going to see some passports and stuff. I'm like, this is not a new trope of like, you open up and there's a passport and there's like 10 different passports with different names in it and whatnot. So it is very much like that. I think, as to your point, Layla, she's been a little bit changed than the original character. I know the show creator really pushed for her to be Egyptian as her background. I don't think traditionally she was, and that's another tie to Egypt, because again, is there a reason why he'd be there? She speaks the language. Like it makes a lot more sense going forward in the episode if they're in Egypt and and it's not the mercenary and it's the bumpkin running around. You need someone to speak the language and know what's going on. So it makes it makes sense for story purposes. I think that this is really straddling the whole concept of the multiple personality disorders. Like is purposefully making the episodes disjointed, because if you were in that situation, you're not really going to know the full perspective. You're going to be cutting back and forth and not understanding what's going on. My hope is that near the end they kind of make it a little more easier for us to digest. Right now it's a lot of like cut scenes and like split back and forth, and it goes black, and then like the end of the episode's like boom, oh, here we are in Egypt, and you're like, oh, okay. Like there's no like,
how did you get there?
I know he's in there, but do I want to watch them going through customs, TSA, like him asking for peanuts on the flight over from London to Egypt? Like I really don't need that. I'm fine with him waking up with a bottle of whiskey. Classic on the ground, bed sheets, a spoon about, with a bottle of Jack Daniels, just sitting there day drinking. So, it's classic Tony Stark behavior there. So, but again, my hopes are high. We'll see what happens. It is definitely again, you can see that Marvel's stretching it, and if you can see the picture on the bottom, I think there was news today that Kevin Feige was the one that suggested them to use the mummy robes as thing for the costume, because typically it doesn't look like it's looks like a mummy. But Kevin Feige's like, hey, why don't we just do that? Why don't we make it look like it's the mummy from Universal's Dark Universe? They're not doing anything with it.
Yeah, the costume lying
around. We can get them on cheap.
Why not? Dark Universe? Yeah, nothing's happening right there. So it makes a lot of sense. John, like, now that we're 2 in and it's only 6 episodes, like, are you teetering upwards or teetering downwards? Like, what are your thoughts? Rob's hook, line, and sinker. Where are you?
Yeah, so Rob's all in. I don't know if I'm suffering from either superhero fatigue or because this is what, the 5th or 6th Disney superhero show, like Marvel comic show in the line now, and before that we had Netflix. So maybe I'm just kind of like not feeling this whole superhero genre, or I want more of what you were talking about, the Bourne Identity mercenary side. So the fact that they're kind of going in between, I think will pay off later, and maybe I'll appreciate it more later. But I kind of want to see more of Mark Spector, which he did take over this episode. So maybe episode 3 is where it's really going to go click for me, right? And then it's going to get to Hawkeye territory or whatever.
I have a feeling, John, that 3 and 4 are going to be all Mark Spector.
Yeah.
So I think
that's what's really going to shine. As charming as Oscar Isaacs is, I do crave this other side that we're kind of seeing glimpses of, and you're like, okay, this is a highly trained mercenary that can kind of take care of business. So I'm definitely interested, but I'm not as excited as Rob right at this point. Maybe I'm not appreciating these kind of like subtle things because I'm seeing bits of this other thing that I want to see, and they kind of keep pulling it away. So like Rob's carrot metaphor. So
let's talk about the change in Arthur Harrow as this character who has now come out. It's like, I was the avatar for this, and then kind of describing all the stuff, saying, oh, does he tell you you're stupid? Does he do this? Does he do that? It seems to have kind of an insight to the character and saying, hey, I'm just trying to do the right thing here. Shows him the utopia land of this little burb in London. We've talked about this. The power of a villain who believes that they're not a villain is right. Very, it's the best type of bad guy. What are your thoughts, Rob? Because, he's not twirling his mustache villainy, but he is giving some kind of vibes.
Yeah, you're right. First of all, I'm an Ethan Hawke fan. I'm not like a massive stan for the guy, but it was my era. Reality Bites. I talked about this last week. Reality Bites and, Before Sunset and all those. So I love seeing him playing this different type of role that we're more accustomed to seeing him in. But the scary villains for me are generally the ones that, as you said, they're not your proto, like they're not the James Bondian campy villains, right? Where it's like, hey, we just want to, we want to kill people. We want to rob banks. We want to do all this. Like, we are evil. There are ones who are saying, listen, there is a blight on this planet, and it is evil that's inherent in all of us. And for us as a society and civilization to prosper and to last on this planet, we need to weed out the bad and only ensure that the good remain. And it's a philosophical approach. So you're either going to agree with it or disagree with it. But it's not like, again, I'm here to wreak havoc and chaos for the sake of wreaking havoc and chaos. So the aforementioned, like the first part of that villain for me, the philosophically nuanced villain, is more entertaining for me than other ones can be, right? Especially when you're dealing with comic book, because I think comic book villains as a whole can be very, like you said, like Lex Luthor or the Joker. They just want to cause chaos because it's fun to them, and that kind of gets boring and old after a while, right? But the philosophical ones, the ones that make you as a viewer go, well, I can kind of see their point. Those are the ones that are dangerous because it can root into your head, right? So I like the fact that Marvel's kind of going this way. As an aside, once again, it's another villain using purple light. I don't know if you guys have known, like nothing is done on, by happenstance or coincidence, but has a thing for purple.
To be fair, the original Marvel stuff was all over the place, and no one can tell me different because their original Infinity Stones colors were all off. If they knew what they're doing, it would have been aligned. Now they've changed all the stones to align properly, but back then when they're doing it, the mind
they didn't have a Wikipedia to look it up and go.
They
were just like print it.
Yeah, I don't care what anyone says. Kevin Feige was not that brilliant to be like, we're going to do the Infinity Gauntlet saga. It's like, no. You just lucked into that because all the colors of the stones were off, and now they've been readjusted in comic book form too. So yeah, sometimes even a broken clock is right twice a day. This is one of those situations you just fell into luck. But yeah, I think, Rob, you made some good points. John, looking at this character, Mr. Knight, he is a character, and I was a little afraid last week when we talked about it that I was afraid that he wasn't going to be utilized properly. If Andre was here, I would ask him his thoughts, but he's not. So, John, Moon Knight is a character that right now they're kind of doing on their own path, but Mr. Knight is a very particular character. What do you think of this portrayal of Mr. Knight?
Yeah, so I'm only familiar with him in the new current Moon Knight series that's running like right now. They're on issue 10 or so.
Still different enough, John.
Yeah. So, so he's more of just kind of like he's running his agency type of thing. Even more so that I wasn't even sure that he was a different personality than like Moon Knight in the traditional costume. So I'm a little concerned because this particular version he's quite comical. It was kind of like a reflex action by Mark to, like, they said suit, so he thinks suit, which I think is funny. But I'm a little worried that this character might be designated to this comedic relief thing. But I think as the series progresses, what's this personality's name again? Steven. Yeah. So if Steven comes to own it, and becomes this character. So I think it can, like, I think I'd be jumping the gun if I decide to go, oh no, they screwed it up, blah 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 blah, right? But it was an introduction. It looked really good. It looked really sharp. I like the part where he rolls up his sleeves and he's kind of like, let's go. It was pretty funny. So I'm okay with it so far. But I'm only familiar with the character with the new series. So, and I don't want to jump the gun. Yeah.
I think I've jumped the gun already. I think we're already there. No, it was an abomination in very. Honestly, like, I get it. It's the concept of a suit and not the ceremonial garb. It's fine. He is, I said, a tactician, a character that is that we've talked about before. It's like the police department. Everyone knows when Mr. Knight shows up, it's cool, man. He's here to solve crime. He's analytical. He's basically Detective Batman. And then when Moon Knight shows up, that's the fanatical, like, guy who basically stabs everyone with his, whatever armaments he can come up with within his Care Bear stare. So it's one of those.
The meme is random bullshit, and he just throws stuff out of his chest.
That's correct. And I think that's one of the things where Mr. Knight is falling short. But again, there are a lot of things missing right now, and I think the Moon Knight fans are just like, man, where's Jean Paul? Like, where's Frenchie? Where are certain elements of this character? And I think, hopefully if they decide to do more, we'll get it. But I can see there's some.
You think that's it? That was the gag. That was the use of this Mr. Knight character, and then. Oh yeah.
No, I don't think so. I'm not familiar. I know that I have a friend of mine who was really upset about it online. He was like, they fucked over Warren Ellis's run with this whole entire thing. I didn't know what Mr. Knight was. Like, to be honest with you, I thought he was like a mob enforcer, like the way he
Mr. Fix It.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say that all the marketing materials that the stills of Mr. Knight that aren't taken from the show. So like the poster that we're seeing down below here. That is not reflective of the character that we saw in episode 2. So it leads me to believe that maybe they are like that's your first introduction, but maybe another personality or something else will happen towards the end where that next personality then embodies Mr. Knight proper. Because I mean, that's a hope, I guess, because looking at this publicity shot, it definitely is not reflective of what we got in the episode.
We'll see. I have a feeling
the eyes. The eyes in the other poster of Moon Knight, they are the LED white lights. But in this one,
how many times have you bought a comic with the cover and had nothing to do with the comic book inside?
Yeah, exactly.
It never happens, dude.
What?
It's right in the comic.
It's in the cover. The cover, Rob, shows you what happens in the comic. No. Okay, never happened. Got it. I hope that the way it's set up, where hopefully, like you said, another personality takes over that character. But again, the nice thing about it is that this could be, we don't know where this is. This could be in a whole different universe, and you don't have to use it. So it didn't say what continuity universe this is. So it could be anywhere, anytime, any place. We haven't run into any Marvel characters or side characters. We haven't run into anything that makes you think this is a Marvel TV show.
Well, and to that point, they never mentioned the Thanos thing or anything else. So you're right. So who the hell knows? The producer said this takes place after Hawkeye, but it actually does take place in our calendar year after Hawkeye. So I don't know if the guy was just being...
Who knows? All I know is that the fact that they were to find a still working Motorola Razr that still works on what G network is amazing. I don't understand how that phone would still work, because the bands go, it's gone. You just can't pop in your old cell phone and be like, I'll just turn it on and see what happens. Again, my whole thing is how does that even, whatever.
You can even find a SIM card to probably fit that thing. I feel like that predates SIM cards. Do you still have yours, Stu? I still have mine.
I have an old one, but you still need the network to still connect it to, and each G, they decommission stuff. It's just like your old PlayStation network. You can't just log into a PlayStation 2 and just go online. Everything gets decommissioned. Just like your old, Wii U, or Wii Fit. You just can't plug it in and be like, okay, I'm going to do stuff. Everything.
Download new stuff. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. Try logging into old school BattleNet, John. And it's not doable. Only new BattleNet is working. You can't type in your old CD key from Diablo 2 and have it work anymore. It's a whole different ballgame. Times have changed. Drivers and whatnot. So, yeah, I hope that we get another representation. But again, that's the nice thing about multiple personality disorders, that maybe that personality will be his own thing. Mr. Knight will be another just facet of the Moon, as you would see, just like
I'm worried that they've just done their kind of Marvel comedify a character. So that's why I'm kind of I'm not super fan of it, but I don't want to kind of judge it just yet.
Yeah, we haven't seen the taxi driver yet, like Jack Lockley. And again, Mr. Knight is, to your point, John, he is not only a boss, a leader, but he's kind of a consultant. So he is kind of the, same thing. When he shows up, I'm sure if Mr. Knight showed up at a crime scene, he would have realized we should move the rug, unlike Batman in the last movie, where it's I don't know, this rug, maybe there's something's going on right there. And police officer will tell him to do it. So what are you...
Don't besmirch the Batman. That's all I'm saying.
I will, because for the world's greatest detective, not very good.
He was in year 2. Come on, give me a break. How many puzzles did George Clooney solve? He was 28 years as Batman at that point. So give me a break.
How many of us in the movie theater just turn to our partner and go, "That's the answer is bad." How many times were you just watching that theater and when they were like, "Oh, the thing was a bat," I'm like, "Oh God, these puzzles aren't even difficult." If you Googled it, you probably get the answer. So no, I'm poking at fresh wounds. Sorry, Rob. All right, we're gonna wrap this up, because there wasn't a really big jaw-dropping moment. I thought, again, Layla was cool. I thought things were done as well as they could be. I'm looking forward.
Has anything been snuck in after credits? I don't stick around for the credits.
No.
Or I saw there was a QR code on his storage locker.
Yep, I scanned it off the TV, and it took you. I think, was it Werewolf
number 1?
Oh, Werewolf by Night.
I think that's what it was.
Okay, that's interesting.
I do have a question for you, though, you guys. What did you think of the rooftop running scene? Because I find that that's a bit of a trope in some comic book movies. We saw it in Spider-Man. We saw it in The Crow. We've seen it in a lot of these other movies. Did you enjoy the rooftop running scene, being chased by one of the hounds of hell? Or
that's where these type of characters would live, though. You can't, it's almost like you can't have it for a street, quote unquote, street level character. You have to. That's their rite of passage.
Here's the thing: unlike the other ones, he has a white costume. And it looked hella cool when he was running up there, like with a white flowing cape. There between this and the other ones, like I could see those two characters clear as day because the Jackal's kind of a little off white. Like Moon Knight is very like, robes and things. Like it is one of the things when you're watching The Dark Knight, everything's dark.
Yeah.
Moon Knight is like, oh, you can see how he's running through and doing stuff. I thought it was really well done. I think again, a nice white flowing cape. There was something nice about that.
And it was real. It wasn't a CG cape. And you could hear the weight of it as he was running, which I really appreciated.
So it was one of the things. I did like the trickery because in the trailers it shows him with a costume, but in the episode we see actually it's him getting out of the costume. Because when we watch the trailer, you see him, they reverse the footage.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, he's putting on the costume at the bottom. And meanwhile, if you watch this episode, you know that he actually, changes back to normal. So they kind of did some rewind trickery on us. I thought it was really well done in that aspect. And then the conversations he's having in the mirror was good too with Stephen Grant. So I thought, again, it was a. I'm not gonna lie. I like rooftop scenes. I just think that when it's a nice costume, and especially when you have a cape, it makes it worthwhile. Winter Soldier, all that stuff, like they don't wear capes, so it's fine. It's whatever. John, am I thinking too much about this?
No. I think it looked fantastic, like visually, so much so that when I saw it going down, I'm like, wow, we are in an age where you can have a TV show that looks this good. I know some people maybe are criticizing some of the VFX and stuff like that, but in general, like you wouldn't see something of this caliber on TV. So it is something that you might, if you scoff at it, we're kind of a little bit spoiled. So it is nice to behold. That entire sequence was just, I was like, wow, superhero shows are on TV or have arrived, right?
Well, not on the CW, but yeah.
But I know we're gonna get going, but I just want to say, to put it in our back pockets, is that when this show is done, I do want to have a discussion with you guys about whether you think this property should have been a movie as opposed to the series, because it's a much larger conversation for maybe a whole different separate.
Yeah, I thought about it for a second. You said this episode is almost 1 hour, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
if you added 30 minutes, then you have Venom. There will be Carnage.
Yep.
Right, which is a
crazy, or
Morbius, a crazy thought, right? Yeah.
No, I'd rather a TV show already. I can answer that right now. When we get this 6 hour or 5 hour novella, it's going to be more flushed out. You can do a lot more. I think we would have rushed a lot more exposition and less of kind of those cutscenes of fear, whether it was in the storage room or whatnot, where he's running away from Khonshu, like back and stuff, and there's a little more breadth about Ethan Hawke and his different minions of people believing and following him. So I think it's a little different. Yeah, I think this is the right medium for it. An hour, 2 hours wouldn't do the Moon Knight justice, because you're like, oh, you have to do too many characters, and here's Stephen Grant, and there's that, and then Moon Knight, and then Mr. Knight. I think that there's too much.
We'll see how much could have been trimmed. I think Rob's got a point. Like I'm almost leaning towards the opposites, dude. I feel like I'm leaning towards a 2 hour movie.
I think it's a trilogy. Wait till they start doing stuff in Egypt, John. There'll be like the next 2 episodes where he's doing the spy stuff, running around shooting people and like in the sands. And so John will be like, "Nah, I take that all back."
I'll be like, I want 2 more episodes, guys.
2 more episodes of him being a mercenary in the desert, shooting down people. They're like, oh, okay, never mind. Like, I think I want that. We haven't got to the Avatar scene either. Like, there's a thing in the trailer where he's walking through and he sees all these other people. We're going to meet all the other avatars of these 9 gods. There's a whole episode, just probably 30 minutes of them like, I am the avatar of this god, and they're going to deal with that too. So we're going to get something really weird soon enough. So I'm happy to see that. And then, again, we wouldn't have had John's favorite character if for that much time if it was only a 2 hour movie. One last shout out quickly. I have to say kudos to the writers, the producers, and all that stuff for making the jackal invisible. I thought it was such a smart move to do. Now that I thought about it the second time around, I was like, oh, they can't see the jackal. I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then I was like, oh, saving money, I guess. And then it made a lot more sense in this episode because everyone thought he was drunk and like it's in London, he's like drinking or whatever. And then even Layla couldn't see it. And like there's nice trickery of stuff that happened when she was like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? And he's like, there's a thing here and I'm fighting. And I thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah, that was me too.
Saves them a ton of money because they're like, oh, it's invisible half the time.
Well, it saves them a lot of having to explain why there's a wild beast running around the streets of London as well, right? That never gets addressed. So, yeah.
John, where can they find you on the internet in the desert of the real?
Yeah, so Heroes World Online will take you to almost all our online content: Facebook, Instagram, the YouTube channel, our website. And then if you want to check us out in the real, 8601 Warden Avenue, Markham, Ontario. So we got tons and tons of stuff, lots of Moon Knight stuff in stock. So if you want to read some of the backstory or other great comic book items, check us out. And if you are listening to this, if you're watching this, we also are available in podcast format on Spotify, which is my listening service of choice, or you can do iTunes, Deezer, whatever your fancy, and that's Heroes World Podcast. So thanks a lot, everybody, for always sharing and checking us out.
Rob, what's happening in the Sidekick show this week?
Yeah, so Monday, April the 11th, 8:15 p.m., John and I are going back to 2007. Last week we did There Will Be Blood, and it went up against this week's movie, No Country for Old Men. The latter won the match, winning Best Picture that year. So we're going to go back and check out No Country for Old Men with Javier Bardem as one of the most terrifying modern day villains that we could probably can think of, as well as Josh Brolin and some other old Kaji guy who is still looking for Dogfridge or Kimball. So definitely join us 8:15, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch.
Good times. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. We'll see you for next week's pod, and be safe, everyone. See you later.
Yeah.
Peace out.